Drop some waves in the comments and let's welcome Dortha Hise, an international best-selling author and productivity and delegation optimizer behind Summit to Your Success. Welcome, Dortha. How are you doing?
Hi, Tammy Renee. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Thank you. Thank you. Why don't you go ahead and share who you are and a little bit about yourself for us today?
Sure. Well, my name is Dortha Hise, as you mentioned, and I'm the founder and creator of Summit to Your Success, which is a full service coaching, consulting, and implementation firm specializing in helping our busy entrepreneurial women around us to reclaim time using strategic delegation and, strategic automation and better delegation. So, I got into this quite by accident. I sort of discovered along the way that as a transition from being a paralegal, I was somebody's research assistant, and she kept coming to me asking if I would be willing to learn things, and I was always a yes. And so that morphed into me learning how to read and write HTML code, and then it became me helping facilitate summits with 30 authors in a book and helping with all the back end stuff of that, and then that became more project management and so over the past 20 years that I've been in business, I've just sort of always grown and been adaptable and flexible and all the things that I enjoy doing as far as being of support and showing up in service of other people. I am fortunate that I have a skill set that a lot of entrepreneurial type folks really don't like doing, which is like the tech back end of types of things. And that's really where I thrive. I have a team that helps me. So that's the implementation piece. Most people come to me thinking that they need the consultant piece, but along the way, they discover there's some mindset work that might need to be done. And that's where I can step in as a coach and help work with them around, things like helicopter entrepreneuring so that they're like, handing it off, but taking it back or handing it off and like hovering over. So I work with all kinds of professionals, and yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me. Yeah,
Yeah, that is I love that you said you come and help entrepreneurs in a different type of way on the back end. So, I am a creative entrepreneur, so I can appreciate that so much.
yes,
But we get it in our heads that we just got to do it all, right?
yep.
We got to take another class, we got to take another course, we got to do
Create another thing.
that before we can even get started. But what
Yes.
I loved about what you said earlier, even though you were doing all of these things, sometimes with entrepreneurs, we'll redo the same thing with a different coach, right?
Yeah.
You stayed with one person while you were learning all different things that all kind of came together to create what you offer today.
Yeah, yeah, and I've been fortunate that, I could sort of see what's happening in the market, and, like, with the advent of AI and during the time of the pandemic, I took those opportunities to be able to use the skills I had developed and then, "Okay, great, what's the next thing I can be doing to learn for my clients so that I can show up better for them?" So, when the pandemic hit, so many of my clients were doing in-person things. I literally had, like, crying clients for, like, weeks. I'm like, "Okay, it's gonna be okay. Like, I can very easily help you do this online." And it was that mindset like you're talking about where they just have it in their head that they can only kinda maybe do it one way, and if they
Mhm.
don't realize that there's other, maybe better, maybe more fun ways that they can do something, then that's where I could come in and say, "Hey, look, there's a whole bunch of different ways we could do this, and let's have a little fun doing it."
Right. And when you talk about we think that there's only one way, well, I never thought that, but a lot of people do.
They do.
um, and I do mindset, so I can appreciate the fact that you do mindset work also.
Yeah.
But when we think we can do one way, sometimes we're just pushing ourselves so hard to get it this one way, but it does not align with us. It doesn't align with our gifts, our talents, our energy. And if you get out that box and trying different ways, what we can optimize our time, right?
Well, it's funny you say that. I have a really great example actually. When I was in the legal field still as a paralegal, I thought my whole path in life was to become an attorney. And, I was working in a law
Mhm.
firm. I was running half of the practice with the attorneys I supported, and I was going to court. I mean, I was doing everything except actually getting up in front of the judge, right?
Wow.
And I kept pushing, like you said, that word, pushing, and I took the LSAT 3 times, and I kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and I just couldn't get in, and I could not figure out for the life of me what it was, and I can't exactly remember the moment, but I do remember the feeling, and that was I was walking out of something, and I had this one of those, like, bonk on the head moments, whether it's like a God or a divine, whatever you wanna call it, moment, that said, like, "Just stop." And so, like, I remember literally, like, kind of putting my hands up and like, "Okay." And as soon as I recognized that I was pushing like I was, and as soon as I gave up that path, like, "Okay, this is not meant for me. This is not what I'm meant to be doing," life got so much easier.
Right? Amazing, right?
Mhm,
We
mhm.
work less, get more done, and
Yeah.
happier.
Yes, yes. Not so stressed.
Amazing. So, what are some ways that you can help people, or you would tell someone how they can reclaim their time through these strategies and things like that?
Well, the first thing I like to do with people, depending on where they're coming in, some people I work with have never done work with a team. Some people are pros at it and they've, been working with a team, and there's a whole spectrum in between. So, where I like to start with people is have them grab a piece of paper, be old school, yes, an actual piece of paper, write down all the things there you go, that you do in your day, everything from email to when you have lunch to when client calls, all of those things, write them all down, circle the things that only you can do, and what's left can be delegated. And there's a really good chance that those things that are left are the things that you're spinning your wheels doing and spending too much time that is not A, in your lane of joy or happiness or anything. And B, is those are the things that are bogging you down, keeping you from getting more clients or getting in front of your existing clients or responding to those emails, or you're missing time with your loved ones, or you're missing your kids' things, right? So it's a big ripple for sure, and starting with that list is one of the first places that people can start to identify, "Oh, oh, I see now.
Mhm.
I see now."
Mhm. It's almost like stepping back and looking at your life.
Yeah.
Stepping back and looking at your day,
Mhm.
because we could keep going and don't even realize all the things we've done that were not productive.
Yeah.
And by removing those, now we create more time, more mental space to do the productive things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a little secret, and it's not a secret, but it is a secret, but it's not a secret. But a little thing that I did maybe about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, prior to 2 years ago, I used to play those games on my phone,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Oh my God. And then get mad when you tell me quit playing the game so long. Well, this is what I do in my downtime. Well, my downtime became all day,
Yeah.
and I wasn't getting anything done. So when I meet people who play on their computer, their games like that, you know, okay, if you have to have it, you gonna have to talk to somebody else to work through that. But delete it.
Yes.
I deleted every single game on my phone.
Mhm.
And then my business started becoming the priority.
There you go. Your focus changed.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
I did not realize it for 5 years. The game took over my life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard reality for, I think, a lot of people, and maybe it's not games, maybe it's, doom scrolling, same thing,
Yeah.
right? Just for days and days scrolling on whatever app, social media or whatever. It's distracting you from shutting your mind down, right? Like being able to
Mhm.
have that disconnected time, and it doesn't have to be like, for me, it's getting outdoors and backpacking and hiking, but it can be as simple as just going sitting outside or having a coffee with a friend or something like that. It could be very, very small.
Yeah, because and I know we're talking about these games and stuff, and you can tell me if this is right or not, but I do feel like even though we think we're shutting down and playing a mindless game,
Yep.
we're really not doing that because we're still thinking about, okay, I got to make this move. Okay, I got to do this move. Okay, I got to get that color. Oh no, I
Yep.
got to get this fruit. I got
Yeah.
whatever it is. We're
Yep.
still thinking strategically through for a mindless game.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels like because it's not the end of the world if I don't finish this round or, or whatever it is, it there's still that keeping your mind going and also the whole blue light thing, right? Like if you're
Mhm.
doing that late in the evening, that's messing with your sleep. And there's whole things around that and your productivity and all of the things that are connected to our, wellness and well-being and all the things that blue light doesn't support.
Right. I don't know a lot about the blue light. I think I have the thing in my glasses, but
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of science around it.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
don't know a ton about it. I just know that, especially in the evening, is when we should start to disconnect from that because, as humans, that's part of our circadian rhythms. And because we're having that light on our phone or on our TV or computers, it's actually doing more harm than good because we're not shutting down.
Mhm. So, speaking of shutting down,
Yes.
not shutting down for our mental health or our well being, but when we shut down from being productive, how would you how do you help people stay in that resilience, or how do you stay in that resilience to keep going, knowing you want to quit, you're tired, you just want to sit back and get on your phone and play a mindless game? How do you get them from moving from that to being more resilient in their business?
Well, I think, a lot of the people I work with are, I would call them high achieving individuals. So they're constantly in a state of like, okay, go, go, go. And I think the bigger problem that I see in a lot of the people that I work with is that they don't take time to sit with the accomplishment or the thing, right? They're just on to the next. And I think
Mhm.
maybe that's a bigger cultural thing, like that we as people have just sort of transitioned to. And I blame, there's a lot of things that I blame that on, but that's maybe for another episode. But I think really getting a focus around building in breaks, building in time to whether it's, I've helped clients start going back to yoga. I've helped clients start writing a book, right? So it's first identifying what that thing is going to be that's going to motivate them. So it's kind of building around, okay, like what's going to lure you back to having that fire in your belly for your business, like why you got into your business in the first place. And generally speaking, what I think I hear from a lot of people is that like they get really pissed off sitting in front of their computer putting an email together and because it takes them hours and hours and hours in their whatever system, right? And they're in there and like it's all funky and they're getting angry because the image didn't go right and whatever. But that's like wasted energy, right? Because it's not in their zone of genius. They could hand it off to somebody who a would be able to get it done a lot quicker, b be in their in their lane of joy, and then it frees them up from that 2 or 3 hours or whatever it is to then focus on client activities. So it's really just kind of finding that fine-tuned balance of, okay, what will get you back to your business? Why did you get into your business? Right? Just sort of reconnecting with the why and the
Mhm.
passion for why they do the work that they do. And if they don't do it, like would they miss it? So then that's a whole separate conversation, right? Maybe they're doing something that they don't love doing anymore. I've certainly seen people transition, in
Mhm.
businesses as well. So that happens also.
Mhm. So I got an interesting question for you that popped in my head as you was talking. So you have entrepreneurs who are so used to doing it all by themselves, right?
Yep.
And you want to move them into more of automation, hiring help, but they don't even trust enough to do that. either A, they're afraid their work's not going to be their work, or B, it's not going to come out right. Then they got to be responsible for someone else, or C, they're not even clear on what they want. How are they going to tell somebody what they want? So, how do you help them to see that this outside help will help you, which I totally agree with.
Mhm.
It took me forever to realize that. And then when I let go of the have to have control over everything,
Yeah.
it was it was great.
Yep.
And then I can start seeing, well, I don't want to do that. So let me just get somebody else to do that,
So
because when it
freeing.
all comes together, it works. So,
Yep.
how do you help people when the mindset of that?
So you hit the nail on the head, I think, when you mentioned the word trust, right? It
Mhm.
comes down to trust. And I think that's really where I stand apart from a lot of people that do the same or similar kind of work as me. My main core value is trust. And I can share with you that by the time I was 5 years old, I was abandoned 3 times. And then by the time I was an adult, I spent a 2 year period in really intense grief and loss. I lost 28 people in that 2 year period. And those two things combined really put a spotlight on having support and having support that I can trust, like someone that I can call no matter what. And I knew that that's how I wanted to show up for my clients. So that I think is the kind of the smorgasbord of things that
Mhm.
come together to sort of be how I hold the space for clients. So it's, one of the things they tell me that I hear a lot is that I have very grounding energy. So they can be up here, like you mentioned, you're a very creative person. So you're probably like a lot of my clients, very up here, like very 30,000 foot view. Okay, I don't know how we're going to do this, but here's the idea. I'm here to catch that idea and then actually lay out a plan for it. And then either with my team or theirs, implement that plan that we have identified. So that's kind of the process. But it really does come down to that fundamental piece of trust. And there might be needing several conversations around trust and like letting go and knowing that it's going to be okay. And whatever that is, it a John Lennon quote, like everything will be fine in the end. If it's not the end, everything is okay, or something like that.
Right.
Something like that. I
Uh-huh.
kind of refer to that often because I think that we tend to get so stuck in our heads, like it has to be a certain way. And if it's not, everything is messed up. And it's not. Like it's totally fine. I come from a dance background as a kid, and I remember people saying, people aren't gonna know if you mess up as long as like you keep going. They're not gonna
Right.
know. It's because
Right.
they don't know the routine. So same thing
Right.
for us as business owners. People don't know the behind the scenes stuff that's going on. As long as when you come out into the world and you look polished, no one's gonna know. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect polished. I just mean like, you showed up
Right.
today.
Right. Yeah, I would say in the last 2 years, I've because I was new to the internet, there was a lot of mistakes I made. And
Sure.
I started getting to the point where actually pointing out my mistakes so that people knew it's okay.
Yeah,
Nobody's gonna put burn you on a cross or anything like that. If anything, they're gonna know you're human.
yeah.
They're
Yep,
gonna know you are just as vulnerable to putting yourself out there in front of these mistakes, and everyone makes mistakes.
for sure. We're human, and God knows with the advent of AI and all that, like even AI makes mistakes, right? Like
Mhm.
and there's notes and all the little tools that say like sometimes they give misinformation. So it's
Right.
like, well, that's good to know because we're the same. Not that
Mhm.
we give him misinformation, but that we sometimes get it wrong.
Right, right. I got one more scenario for you.
Okay.
What about those that come to you or that you see? They may not come to you because they feel like you don't understand them.
Mhm,
You
mhm,
know,
mhm. I know
they're
those
not
people.
gonna understand me.
She doesn't
Nobody's
get
gonna
me.
understand me. So I gotta figure this out myself. What would
Yeah.
you tell those people?
So those people are probably not my people. I will be completely honest because and I'm not by blanket statement here. I'm just saying in general, typically they're not in a place yet where they're ready to say, okay, I can let go of something, right? If
Mhm.
we can come in and identify 5 things that you don't need to be doing and you're willing to hand one of those off, send an email, you schedule some social media posts, whatever it is, it's a small thing that's going to build trust. And then that can be built upon over time. However, like I said, those people might not be in the right place yet.
Mhm.
So they
'Cause they
have to,
probably don't understand themselves.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't know, oh, I can actually get more done when I start handing things off because it's actually leveraging your efforts. And then you're doing the things that you enjoy and you have a team that's doing things they enjoy.
Mhm. So, why do you feel like it's so important to be aligned with creating these things that you want, these books, these practice, whatever it is you're trying to achieve? Why do you think it's so important to be aligned with that?
Well, I think when we're in alignment, it's when we show up the most powerfully and the most like rooted is the word I use. Like for me, I mentioned grounding earlier, rooted nature, that's all me. And so I give things in terms of gardening and nature and that sort of thing. So if you think of a tree roots kind of growing out and splaying into the earth, that I think is how we show up when we're really aligned and we're just like very much in our full purpose and we're like shining the light that we're meant to shine. And I think that then those who are attracted to that light, because it's not for everyone, but certain people will be attracted to that light. And that's how they find us is when we're in that full alignment and we're in integrity and we're speaking authentically, we're showing up transparently, we're being here, with our mistakes and everything. And, just letting people know that they can do the same thing. Like they can show up authentically. They can, and maybe they need permission. Maybe they don't. But
Mhm.
you can be that bridge. I think, before we started the show, Tammy Renee, you mentioned that being the bridge, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's a great metaphor for that visual is that it could be a bridge.
Mhm. Yeah. I know I'm here to be a bridge.
Yep.
Um So earlier, throughout this conversation, you mentioned nature a couple of
Yes.
times, right? And
Yeah.
you mentioned about going on a hiking trip, and I love nature too. Like I would be considered a tree hugger.
Same. Same.
So tell me about the hiking experience you had.
Well, my first trip came after that 2 years period that I mentioned of real intense grief and loss, and it was my way of finding my way back to nature. I had always been kind of an outdoor kid and, like, used to go feed wild horses in the fields by my grandma's house, um, but I had gotten away from that, right, as we do when we get older, we get away from the things that make us the childlike wonder that we had growing up, and, we went on this trip. My husband forwarded me a message from somebody at work, and he was like, "Hey, I'm looking for some people to go on this trip with me. It's a 45-mile backpacking trip. Like, if you're interested, let me know." So my husband said, "Hey, do you wanna do this?" And I have always sort of had an attraction to backpacking, like some sort of romantic idea in my head about it, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, like, let's give it a try." We went, it was amazing, it was beautiful, and, when we got home, I was sitting in this same space I'm in right now, and I had this, like, complete peace in my heart, and I was like, "Huh, that's interesting," and the only thing I could pinpoint, not having, like, feelings of grief and intense all of those things that had been on my heart before, the only thing I could pinpoint was the time that we had spent in nature, and that time, just being raw and being vulnerable in literally having your life in other people's hands because you're in nature. So where we hike, there are bears and things. So we had gotten charged by a bear the week before
Oh
the trip,
wow.
and I won't lie, I was terrified on this
I
trip.
bet.
I was, for some reason, I thought we were just going to get eaten by bears in camp. I don't know why. They don't want to see us any more than we want to see them, and
Mhm.
it's taken me a long time to get around to that. Now I'm the one giving sage advice on the trail when people are like, "Oh, I'm scared I'm gonna run into a bear," and I'm like, you got this." I'm like, "They don't want to see you any more than you want to see them." And then I tell them about our experience, and we've had lots of bear experiences over the years because when you're in their playground, that's what happens. Like you're gonna run into them. It's not if, it's when, and you just have to be smart and you have to be equipped. And all of that to get back to saying, like, that how I spend my time in nature is if I can't get out for a backpacking trip or something like that, I'll just go out in the backyard. You mentioned tree hugging. We have a giant oak tree in our backyard. She's the best hugger. She really is.
Um,
She's like hugging grandma.
Yeah, I got a huge one over 100 years old right at my deck. And I wanted to do like a cover over my deck and close it, but I have to cut it down to do
Yep.
it because it's so close. But they say eventually I'm going to have to because of how close. Like I can stand on my deck and hug it. That's how
Aw.
close it is. And
Mhm.
it's huge. They want $5,000 to cut it, but I
Oh
can't
my
cut it. I'm
gosh.
like,
Yeah.
this is like a history all in this tree for the last 100 years. Like I
Truly.
can't do it. I'm
That tree
like,
has seen
oh,
some things.
right. That tree done seen some things. Oh my God, I love it. Yes, nature is it communicates with us in so many different ways. It connects with our energy. I am very attracted to birds too. Birds speak to me. Yeah, so I get a lot of messages from birds. So
Yes.
I love nature. I love nature. And then someone had to point it out to me because a lot of times we think of nature as the woods and trees and things like that, right? Well, there's this island I love to go to. And I kept saying, but it lacks the nature. There's like nature is everywhere. And I sat back and I thought, yeah, desert is nature too. It's just a different type of nature. It's
Yes.
just a different type of nature. So that actually is something that set in me this year because I kept saying, I
Nice.
love this island. I just wish it had nature in it because it's a desert island, but it has cactuses, it has a few trees, but we have to remember that nature doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a tree hugger.
That's
It
right.
could just mean the water, the rivers, the rocks, the sand, anything is
Yep.
nature and it connects with us really.
It does.
I
Yeah, and that, um, you just don't hug the cactus. But also, the desert, we have had some of our best hikes in the desert, like
Oh,
some
wow.
amazing scenery to be had in deserts,
Yeah.
which we were blown away. Like, we came to near Death Valley in a super bloom just after,
Oh,
massive
wow.
rainstorm had been the year before. Oh my god, it was incredible. Like, every time we turned a corner, it was like massive spreads of blooms, and it was just like, holy smokes,
Wow.
I had no idea the desert could be like this.
Right. Mhm.
Yep.
I totally agree with that. So, is there anything else you would love to share? We got some great tips in here. I hope you were writing those tips down. I hope you make time for yourself. And if you need help, please, if you want to save time, and be more resilient, get you some help. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So, would you like to share anything about your business, anything that you offer on your business that can help people, and any other tips or tricks you want to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say for sure, get support, ask for help. I like to say that asking for help is one of my superpowers. It's one of the ways that I take self-care for myself. And, when I framed it that way, I didn't find that I needed to get permission. It was okay because it was part of my self-care. So, if that's helpful for you, feel free to borrow it. And, I would be happy to connect and have a conversation with you and your particular business needs. If you have questions, if I'm not the right person for you, I have a large network of people. I'm happy to plug you in with somebody if I'm not the right one. But yeah, I think definitely get outdoors, put your feet in some dirt. If it's cold where you are right now, maybe just go to the window and look outside. But get some vitamin D on your skin, get the sun on you, and just take a few minutes away from your computer because when you disconnect, you're able to reconnect more powerfully when you come back to that whatever it was that you stepped away from.
Mhm. It's like recharging, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We don't let our phone get down to zero. Why do we let ourselves?
Right. So, if somebody was watching this and they'd be like, oh man, I need somebody to help me make more time out of my life so I don't have to spend hours and days and weeks on the same thing. How do we find you?
I am on all the social places, and summittoyoursuccess.com is my website if you want to connect with me that way. But yeah, I'm pretty much on all the socials. And you asked if I had any, like, I do have some freebies and things like that. I'm happy to share if those would be of benefit for your people. Happy to share.
Okay.
Like a an automation and delegation. I'm forgetting the name of it because I wasn't even prepared to share that name with you. It's a it's like a workbook, and it helps you identify things to automate and delegate. So if that would be helpful, I'd be happy to share that. It's a great
Okay.
resource. Way to get
Yes,
started.
we would love to have that. So keep an eye out on the copy that's coming out. Make sure you connect. Make sure you are making plans to make time for life and let your business thrive. That is our show for today. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for being with us, Dortha, for sharing your knowledge, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing the tips with us.
Drip
Thank
wisdom,
you
slow
so much
pours like
for that.
molasses. Visionary queens and the bosses, no glasses.
Talk to
Tammy
you
me
later.
microphone, fire she embraces.
Bye.
Stories reshape, no trace of stasis. Echoes of heroes.